What is feminine energy? What is being embodied in your sensual energy? What is sensual embodiment? Oh, I can hear me at the beginning of my journey asking those sorts of questions. If I came across me now and I saw this Instagram world and this woman's like, I help women reconnect to their feminine energy so they're ready to call in their king and all of this stuff, I would have been super curious. Like, what? But I know my first question would have been like, what is feminine energy and what is sensual embodiment? And why is that the reason you call in your king? Because me back then was not calling in kings. I believed I was a very feminine woman, always have been, right? I was beautiful. I loved makeup. I loved silk. I loved flowers. But I was totally disconnected and I was attracting in relationships that left me heartbroken, that left me having the doormat effect, which is basically where they just walk right over you into your home, into everything you have to offer, take your stuff and walk back out with not even so much as a thank you. And I was on this deep, heartbroken journey of being like, why am I not valued? How can I attract someone who meets me? Is there even a man out there? And quite frankly, I had just lost my hope in men. But I know if I'd come across someone who had worked with over 100 women in reconnecting to their femininity, and I knew I was ready to heal whatever the fuck was inside me that was attracting all of this negativity, the first thing I'd actually want to know is like, what is sensual embodiment? What is this stuff? What happens there? And as I sat this morning and really heard that part of me come through, what I felt to share isn't what femininity is per se. I wanted to speak into what being disembodied is, what being disconnected is from your sensual energy. Because most human beings, we're pretty good at looking at what we're not good at. But I also think it really helps to paint a picture for ourselves of, am I actually connected to my sensual energy? Am I an embodied woman? Am I feminine? Well, it's good to know. And you're going to know because you're either going to resonate with what being disembodied is and disconnected is, or you're going to be like, huh, I'm not too far off. Maybe you're somewhere in between. But once we get a little bit of clarity, we can start to then deepen into our practice. And so, what I want to share today is actually some of the things that are going to make you disembodied from your sensual energy. And that's going to give you a pretty good mirror of if you are or are not connected to your sensual energy and your femininity and all of the things. And I also want to share with you what embodiment and sensual embodiment looks like and how that practice and that consciousness can shift in your life. And of course, because I'm just one fractal of human consciousness in 8.5 billion, I'm going to share a bit of my story and a bit of my life and where I actually started to see, oh my gosh, I'm really disembodied and disconnected, and what I did differently. And it's a little bit, it's like a taster of what we do, of course, inside SEM, which is now my method, the sensual embodiment method, which guides women in a powerful method and process to reconnect to their feminine energy so that they are energetically, neurologically, biologically, and spiritually hardwired to become magnetic and are ready to receive. And they know what they're ready to receive. So let's start here. What is being disembodied? What is being disconnected and disembodied from your sexual energy? I've written down a few notes and I want to read through them because this is where I started. And I want to walk us through actually how that was completely disconnecting and does completely disconnect us from our sensuality and ultimately then our authentic magnetism that's going to attract your king. And you got to remember this, my loves, when you're in this process, you're in this journey, you have your king As my dad used to tell me, maybe in the 8 billion souls in this world, there's 1,000 that actually really are going to resonate and be able to walk a life path with you in a union that's going to bring you fulfillment in the decades of self-awareness and self-conscious awakening that you're supposed to and meant to go through as a soul. And so because we are coming and attracting and ultimately looking for our king, our man to build our kingdom with, we need to be in our authenticity. So what's breaking us out of it? What's disconnecting us? Well, the first thing I'm going to say, hands down, and this was me, is medication. Medication is biological chemicals that we put in our bodies because we're conditioned to, because we don't think we are healthy or powerful enough or have the capacity to heal ourselves or regulate ourselves. Now, the big medication that I have found is the most disembodying medication on this planet for women is the pill. Now, I understand why women take the pill because I took it for 10 years. And the reasons why I took it was I had PCOS, I had endometriosis, I had bleeds if I was not on the pill that were so heavy that it soaked through the mattress, the bed, it just poured. And it was irregular, meaning I had no idea when that thing was going to land. And it tended to land when I was in someone else's house. So there was a big reason why I was on the pill. Also, sex. I didn't want to get pregnant. Like, it's a big thing, right? Like, oh my God, what if I fall pregnant? And some of us have. I fell pregnant when I was 17. I was raped and I fell pregnant through that. And that was a big cause for me wanting to be on the pill because it's like, really shit things happened to me and I was going to bear the consequence of that. I also miscarried, in case you are wondering what happened to my child. I was going to keep my baby, and that's a different podcast for a different day. But there were multiple, and there are multiple reasons why women take the pill. But let me tell you this, and this was my journey when I started to come off all of my medication, but a big one was the pill, is I don't trust my body. I don't trust God. I don't trust nature. I don't trust men. I don't trust. So I'm taking something outside of myself to create safety. I don't trust the natural wisdom of my body. I don't even know how to listen to her. I didn't understand how my hormones worked. I didn't know how to regulate my hormones. I didn't believe I could. And so, because I was living in such a subconscious condition of mistrust with my own vessel, I was convinced I needed something outside of myself to create safety. Now, because your body is a mirror of your life, when you are embodying that on a subconscious level, but in your conscious daily action and choice, you're putting that into your field. And most of us don't seem to realize that we are energetic beings and we mirror out to the world what we are telling our bodies. So many women wonder why they invite in men that they can't trust, why they need external validation to feel safe, why they have anxious attachment style. And I'm like, no, it's just that you're embodying mistrust daily because you don't actually know how to connect into your body and regulate her. Maybe you've never experienced it, and maybe you have a reason not to. I was all of the above. But ultimately, medication, and particularly the pill, one, it caps your natural hormones. So you stop producing your natural hormone production, including your estrogen and your progesterone. And because of that, men, and you can see it in studies, it's absolutely fascinating. Men who are around women who are on the pill produce less testosterone. They actually have less of a sex drive, they have less of a sex counter. And so the natural hormone production of men and women no longer is produced because we are hormonally capped. And because of that, we produce different pheromones that aren't our body's natural pheromones. And we tend to attract misaligned partners. It happens time and time again. And you might be married to someone who you love, but you're on the pill. I work with a lot of women who have that. And guess what happens? My sex drive has dropped. I don't feel libido. There isn't this chemistry. Why? Well, I can tell you a big reason why we're disconnected from our natural flow is because we're capping our natural hormones and we're embodying, ultimately, mistrust in our vessel. If that's not going to block you in multiple areas in your life, I don't know what will. I could unpack that for hours. But let me tell you, when I first started reconnecting to my sensual energy and becoming feminine, I had to rediscover myself on that level. Number two, substances. Now, in today's society, and for hundreds of years, substances have been completely normalized. And again, I can say this from my life. I was the girl who felt feminine and sexy and wild because I was going out for a cheeky little drinky with the girls, and I would have my sip of my mimosa, and I would look sexy, and men found me attractive, and it's so sexualized, right? Alcohol and smoking and all of these things. And it's gorgeous. It can be so divine. And so, but ultimately, if we get to the real drop of it, most women are having a drink at the end of the day because they're freaking exhausted, because they want to let off some steam, because they need something outside of themselves to calm down. Most women are having a little drink because it helps them get out of their own head so they can actually get sexual with their partner or with men in general. And a lot of women are drinking so that they can actually play out their sexual fantasies because they do not have the confidence or they don't know how to tap into that level of power in them to do it sober. And I know this because this was me. So again, there's never judgment. But I can tell you that although alcohol and drinks and going out had this very feminine, sexy front, when I sat and got real, I realized I was so disconnected from my body. I was using, again, outside things to let an energy come through me, but that never actually empowered my body. Substances ultimately, and again, disembodiment is also realizing, does this thing, whatever I'm doing, amplify my body's natural intelligence and give me that confidence and that structure to emanate through the vessel that I am moving through? Remember, you're not your body. You cannot be the subject and the object. So if you understand it, your body is an object. You can see it. So you're the subject witnessing it. You're not your body. It's the vessel, it's the divine intelligence you're moving through. So is the thing that you're putting into your intelligence, into your supercomputer, amplifying it, or is it blocking it? I remember when I started figuring out, like, yeah, every time I drink the next day, I'm emotional, and I don't get why. Why is it that I have these mood swings when I'm emotional and I'm drinking and I'm this and I'm horny and then I'm angry and I'm alcohol kills bacteria, right? That's why they put it on your skin when they're going to put a needle in you in a hospital. It cleans, it kills bacteria, antibacterial. Your microbiome. You know that whole massive biome of bacteria? There's actually more microbiome than body cells in your body. You know that thing that's inside you that produces your serotonin and regulates your body and your gut, your second brain? Yeah, so every time you're drinking, you're just killing it. It's like you just wipe out your body's intelligence and its natural biohemisphere. So again, when we look at women who might present very sexy but actually are really struggling to tap into their femininity, substances is a big one. One, you're killing your microbiome and all of your hormones and all of your juiciness. Two, you might be drinking or using substances to appear feminine and sensual and sexy, but ultimately, it's a mask every single time. It's a mask because if you tried to be what you were drunk, sober, you would struggle because you're not naturally oozing this radiance from you. And maybe you've never done it or you have no idea how. Number three, sexual experiences for the goal of love and connection. A lot of women are presenting sensual and sexual and feminine because they're so sexually open with men. They're in the bedroom and they're in their lingerie, and this is the epitome of femininity, with the silky shoulder and it drops off and she's so juicy. But why are you in there with him? A lot of women are using their bodies and their sex as a trade to feel what they want to feel because they never feel it with themselves. We use our sexual energy and our bodies to take emotional or mental experience for ourselves because we're not giving it to ourselves. So we're disembodied or disconnected from our sexual energy because we're using our body to get something that we're not giving to ourselves. And it's masked in this front of femininity. And I know because that was me. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel claimed. I wanted to feel someone would hold me and be with me. And I knew that if I could use this body of mine and my voice and my eyes and all of the things that I knew how to do because it was so beautiful and men get so entranced, I would get a feeling that I wanted to feel. But I was never actually listening to the cues of my body. I was never listening to the fact that my pussy felt closed, or that when I lay in bed with someone, I often tensioned and I didn't actually feel safe. My body didn't feel safe. I was pushing her. I was taking some drugs or I was drinking some alcohol to relax her so I could get a feeling. Because I damn well knew that when I lay in bed at night alone, I was giving myself that and I had no idea how to. I didn't know how to love myself in the depth that I believed a man could or would or should. So ultimately, even my sexual experiences or my intimate experiences were disembodied because I wasn't feeling into her. I was using her to get something I needed. Let me know if that starts to resonate with you in some experiences you've had or put yourself through. Another big one on disembodiment and being disconnected from your sexual energy is not having a routine. But you might ask why, and I'm going to tell you. If you work in my field, you're going to know I am a routine girl. Now, not all of us are the most routined person. I am absolutely routined, but let me tell you this. When you start to build out a routine for your life, what you're actually doing is you're finding ways that support your energetic flow. Every single human being has an energy flow. We have a Circadian scale, right? We connect to the planet, we connect to mitochondria, to the sun, to the light. Most of us are completely disconnected to a routine and a flow that is going to amplify our energy. So we're either just doing a routine that we know we should do, wake up, 15 push-ups, 1 liter of water. I know my partner, Daniel, went through a phase where he was like, yeah, this is like the masculine way of being in your power. You wake up at 5, you cold plunge, you drink a liter of water, and he was fucking miserable. This was before we dated. He said he absolutely went through burnout. He had no emotions. He was numb because he was doing something that wasn't working for him. Now, a routine is something that you start to cultivate with yourself to see what expands me and what contracts me. But if we're just in a regimented, I got to get up here, I got to go to here, I got to do this, or we're just going day by day, life's happening to you, you're not actually connected into what your body needs. And women ultimately don't work like men. We need a different routine every week because we have 4 different major hormone cycles. Technically 6 in a month, but we're gonna go for 4. The 4 in 1, I talk about a lot inside SEM. You have a different hormone counter and a different hormonal flow every single week. And we need to start to cultivate routines and rituals that support our hormones. Because when we're hormonally supported, we feel mentally and emotionally supported by ourselves. Women who are disembodied from their sensual energy are the women who are running everyone else's lives and not listening to what their body needs. And ultimately, that makes them feel unworthy, stagnant, blocked, unseen. But it's actually your choice because you are disembodying. You are not listening to your body. And you haven't found a method and a way to actually connect in there. And finally, one of the biggest ones that I've seen with disembodiment of your sexual and sensual energy is your belief about your turn on. So again, I can come back to younger me. I had strong beliefs about what should turn me on, right? And I had those beliefs from social media, from friends, from boyfriends, from things I picked up in magazines. But I actually had no idea what really turned me on. And things that did turn me on, I didn't think were cool. I didn't think were sexy because other people had expressed they weren't. You were disembodied from your sensuality if you were not listening to the cues of what turns you on. And usually, what turns us on is something that is not considered cool, sexy, normal. We are conditioned to be these pornographic, porn starry girls. We're conditioned in our self-pleasure to need a big dildo and a vibrator and to push it in and we're conditioned. Does it actually turn your body on? Does it actually make her feel safe and cute and naughty and soft and juicy? Does she open up? Does she cry? Does she sneeze? Does she yawn? Does she tingle? Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I started with my journey, it was a fuck no. I masturbated to feel that clitoral genital sneeze orgasm. I was like, ah, and that was it. And then pleasure was like you know, if I was with a man or with a partner, I would try to make him feel like my body was super into it. But did I feel it? No. I was completely armored, tense muscles, numb yoni, locked jaw. I had no idea, but I had a whole lot of belief systems of what pleasure should be. And that's what I ran by. And that's what I showed up as. But body wise, wasn't happening. So these are the biggest reasons why we are disembodied from our sensual energy. I'm sure there's loads more, but time and things I wanted to share also from my journey, the first things that came through for me. So before I go into actual embodiment and how we start to feel it, I want to ask you to tap into yourself and to ask, like, where am I disembodied from my sensual energy? Where am I disconnected from my femininity truly? Is it meds? Is it substances? Is it the motivation behind sexual experiences? Is it your routine or your lack thereof? Is it your belief system around your turn on? Another one I just saw that I didn't speak into, and I want to because it's important, is how you look at yourself in the mirror. Now, I knew women. I was never particularly that woman for a long time. I got there, but it still wasn't that embodied. But I knew women who would look at themselves and they would sexualize themselves. Every pose is just this, But does it make the body really feel safe? I saw a lot of girls who absolutely feared aging, weight gain, but because they sexualized what they saw in the mirror and they presented all of their self-worth on what their body should be and how they viewed themselves when they looked at themselves, that they actually felt no freedom. They actually felt insecurity in their beauty. I was on the other end of the spectrum where I just fucking hated what I saw in the mirror. I would look at myself and it was like, I didn't want to see myself. I wouldn't look at myself naked. I didn't want to know. I used to put a blanket over the mirror. I couldn't bear my reflection. But a huge way that we disembody from our sensual energy is when we look at ourselves with a judgment, whether it's sexy or ugly, whether it's perfect or absolutely awful. You disembody from her because she is what she is, and she will change, and she's going to change. Whatever you do, your body is always evolving. It is divine intelligence evolving. But when we stick it in a frame of judgment, we disembody. And then what we do is we cling or we resist. We control rather than actually listen to the flow and allow her to evolve the way she naturally will. So catch me there if that's something that you do, because that is a massive way we disembody from our sexual energy. We block ourselves from our capacity. Not to deepen in to actually what sensual embodiment is and reconnecting to your femininity. There's a lot, obviously. I have a 3-month program on this, and I feel like it sets you in a method, and you have your life to begin to deepen then into these waters, into this depth. But I want to talk about a couple of the core ways coming off the back of what blocks us of how we can actually reconnect, how we can actually drop into our sensuality, into our flow. So the first pillar I actually teach inside SEM, and it was the first step with me in my journey, is becoming your lover. And the biggest thing is actually what turns you on. So for me, I needed to cut back everything that was blocking me. That was medication, that was substances, that was shitty foods. I did a big cleanse out. Sex toys, all of the outside shit, men, women, drinking, all of that external crap. I was like, dude, that is not letting me know me. And I was petrified to know who I was. But I was also curious because I knew what I was when I wasn't me. And that was ultimately lonely, depressed, and magnetic for the fucking worst, even if I presented as all the other things. So I cut back everything. And I had to start to sit with my turn on. What I realized is my inner child actually evoked a lot of sexual energy in my body, and there was a lot of healing that needed to happen there. There were little things that would just turn my body on. It would make me feel something. I was like, oh, something as little as, for me, and always when I was a child, going into rose gardens and lying around roses and breathing and giggling gave me so much in my body. I was like, this isn't slamming myself with a dildo at night. Why am I turned on right now? Subtle energy. I started connecting to my inner slut. There was a part of me that hadn't been met, that wanted to experience, and in a way that she'd never had the safety to. I had to rediscover what actually made me feel pleasure. Embodiment is going on a very gentle path and a journey of connecting to actually what feels pleasurable in your body, against what you're used to, against what society says, against all the outside stuff. It's getting into you and actually observing and feeling and being like, interesting. Being connected into your femininity and into your sexual energy absolutely requires you to have a connection to God or have faith. And the reason I say that is not the religious dogma of you need to do this and you need to be a biblical saint, virgin, blah, blah, blah. My parents were pastors. I had to work through a lot of that shit too. Faith is having enough trust in a power and an energy that ultimately, to me, I feel is masculine because it provides all, right? God, life, what provides everything. You arrive here naked and vulnerable, and life provides you an unfurling level of abundance, of light, of nature, of food, of water, of fasting. It provides for you. But to be really in your femininity, you need to have the capacity to deepen into faith enough to let go of what you think you need for yourself and enjoy a moment for the sake of it. Something I had never done. Very rarely, unless I'd had a drink or two and I could just fucking let go, was enjoy the moment for the sake of it. Most of us women are so goal-orientated in why we do what we do that we forget the pleasure of being alive, the pleasure of drinking your first glass of water in the morning because it's nourishing for your body and you can feel it moving through your organs and you can feel yourself needing to poop and you can feel your system recalibrating. Most of us women forget even on the healing journey, like the pleasure of breathing. It needs to be to heal trauma and release this. And it's not just feeling something entering you and exiting you. And most of us ultimately are so disconnected from our capacity to surrender to life that we're actually never present. So for me, embodiment is the capacity to be so deeply in your body and the experience of the now because you have such an outstanding faith that it's safe to land fully here. The ultimate qualities of the feminine: trust, surrender, devotion. I remember sitting in a conference with Satguru and he said, devotion is the capacity to completely melt into something with no knowing of why, but full trust in it. It's this melting. The feminine devotes, but you have to have faith and you have to know how to cultivate that in your body so that you can. Another big one of embodiment and coming back into your sensuality. It is not trying to feel sexy or trying to feel good or trying to be body positive. It's the capacity to, when you look in the mirror, to really feel how this vessel that you're in, feels when you look. When I started to re-embody and to feel everything that I'd numbed and blocked in, there was such a grieving. There was so much heartbreak when I looked in the mirror and I felt in my body how she felt. Not what I thought, how she felt every time I spoke to her. Even when it was, oh, you look so good. There was this contraction because it was like, oh my God, what if I do something wrong? What if I gain some weight? What if I eat this? What if I get water retention? What if I do? I contracted. I could feel my body contract. And God helped me with the verbal criticism. When I started to feel what it felt like for this animal, for this creature that's holding me, that's caring for me, that's multiplying, that's magnetizing, the pain it goes through when it's doing its best, and you're ultimately also the one that's like fucking it up and building up all this subconscious stuff inside you, and you're just playing out this shadowy game inside a divine intelligence, but also an animal. And I felt what I was doing to her. I grieved. I felt emotions, energy and motion. I felt so much. I felt anger. I felt sadness. I felt love. I felt surrender. I felt presence. I felt connected. Embodiment and sensuality isn't about being sexy. It's about the capacity to deeply empathize and feel your body and the effect your consciousness has on a body. Because when you can tap into that depth with yourself daily, the world becomes your mirror. You're going to start to attract in men who understand that. You're going to start to attract in people into your life who honor and respect the body, all the stages. Women who want a king, but they're trying to attract a man because they want to be sexy and they're trying to be all this stuff. Your king needs to be a man who has the consciousness to grow old with you and to love you and to see you as his divine lover to the day that you die. But you're never going to attract that in if you can't feel the feeling of what your own consciousness does when you're looking at yourself, let alone the other. You're going to attract your mirror, literally. So embodiment for me is actually this authentic connection to the mirror, to how you feel, how she feels. Of course, a big one, and I spoke about this a little bit, so I won't dive too deep, but is your routine. What in your daily flow actually gives you energy and life? Not the have to do, the must do. My biggest surrender point, and I still work on this all the time, is that the mindset of I have to blocks you. The mindset of I get to opens you. And it's not so much I want to, because wanting can often create this sort of ego-y energy, although it's quite nice sometimes to want to do something. But the have to energy completely disembodies and disconnects us from our femininity. You can see a woman who has the I have to in her eye. I have to have sex with my husband. I have to look after my kids. I have to do this routine. I have to eat this way, or else what? You're not going to be loved. You're not going to be beautiful. You're not going to be cherished. You're not going to be seen. How are those feelings working out for you right now in your have to energy? Things I used to ask myself. When you change to I get to make love. I get to hold my kids' hands. I get to cook for people. I get to take a nap. I get to do this life. It's so much sexier. And if you don't believe me, this is a takeaway homework to do today. Go to your partner if you have one and enter with the I have to have sex with you energy tonight. See how the sex feels. Tomorrow night, go in with the mindset, I get to be your lover. You're going to have sex with the same person one day apart. Journal about how it feels different and ask them. Don't tell them your mindset. Check in afterwards. The feminine is the knowing that you actually are so empowered that everything in your life is actually a choice, but you feel that. It's not that you know that, but I still have to. It's that you feel I actually get to do this life. And ultimately, I found crafting a routine where you get yourself and you know yourself, big part of SEM, pillar 4, know yourself, know your routines, know your habits, know what actually makes you feel like is going to make you feel and be the most radiant, sexual, beautiful woman. Final 2 things before I close. Embodiment, connecting to your femininity, sensuality, is discovering your own turn on and realizing it can be a really slow process. Women come into my field and they want to be multi-orgasmic and have all the 13 types of orgasm, and they're in this like, I want to be this sexual, blah, 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 blah. You will be, let me tell you, because your body by nature is multi-orgasmic and you have shit tons of erogenous zones, but you are armored as hell. Your fascia in your body is closed because everything you're doing is blocking your body from pleasure. So many blockers. When I was discovering my turn on, it was really removing the goal of orgasm and being juicy completely out of the equation. It was like, that's just park it. I need to start to feel myself. I need to feel my skin. I need to feel my breath. I need to feel my lips. I need to feel what part of me when I touch feels nothing and what I am feeling. You will never feel nothing. Numbness is a feeling. Nothingness is a feeling. I can feel it. And underneath that, you can melt, you can melt, you can melt, and you're going to start to find the places that turn you on. And they're different for everyone. That's the beauty of discovering a body. God, that to me is what makes being a lover with yourself and then with another when you call in your partner so juicy. They're unique, just like you. But if you are a customized, conditioned cookie cutter, I need to be this, you're never going to tap into that depth of pleasure, and your partner's never going to feel that satisfaction ultimately. If you want a high level man, you need to attract a man in who can sit with your body and not sexualize it, who can be with you without the goal of orgasm or even sex, but actually learn your pleasure. But before you get that man, you need to get in your head how to do that, and you need to be deeply aware of the roadmap of her, because the world is your mirror. You will attract men in the way you are meeting her. And that's a slow process. That can be a real slow process. And I find that the juiciest, most present, lifelong relationship. And ultimately, if you're wanting to call in your king, you need to teach your body and your mind that it's not a one-hit wonder, that you're willing to put in the work and go into the slowness of that process to begin to feel and unpack the depths that are there. You are never not gonna be multi-orgasmic. Till you're in your 80s, till you're literally in your last days of life, your body will be an orgasmic pleasure portal. It's what they're designed to be. Women have an entire organ for pleasure, only the clitoris. So discovering your self-pleasure and what turns you on slowly, and going through the process of resensitizing and de-armoring to experience and bringing that into your daily practice. That's going to make you magnetic as fuck, but that's going to make sure that you are disciplined and connected to your body. Embodiment 101, being in her. And the final thing is, when you are entering sexual experiences, whether it's with your beloved or you're starting to go into that healing journey, you're not going into sexual experiences for the goal of love and connection, because love and connection is already there. Your body, when you open into your sexuality on that level, is now there to experience prolonged pleasure because you are in a safe, loving, held container. NB, what blocks us and disembodies us is that we go into sex and sexual experiences to feel love and connection. Embodiment is creating so much love and connection around you because you've attracted in someone who loves you and holds you and supports you the way you're loving and holding and supporting yourself. So that when you're actually in the intimacy of the body and pleasure with another, the goal is not to get love, to be held, to be supported. And the goal is not to perform or be something or show them or prove yourself. The whole experience is to actually feel how much pleasure the body can have with another. The mindset and the connection and the depth that happens there is like no other. And I remember when I started experiencing that with Daniel, because I was celibate for 5 years and I waited for my man and I did all of this friggin' rewiring, undoing, clearing. I went through a process. And then when I came together with him, I was like fucking petrified, because I was like, what if it's not? And I came back to my body. And when we entered into intimacy, which we didn't just leap into, we took our time. But when we entered into that, what I realized was this inner child in me, all of the giggling and the softness, and it was ticklish, and I felt little, and then I felt wild. And I started to realize the layers and layers and layers of pleasure that wanted to come through and play in the bedroom. And because we were not a goal-orientated, sex is an orgasm and it's an experience and it's great and it's cool. There was this whole unfurling where I longed and got excited for pleasure in different aspects and ways. But I had built that with myself. And so I was able to open and have these sexual experiences with my beloved that were so cosmic, that were so mind blowing, that were so deep. And every time we enter into intimacy, because we're both in our bodies and we really come back into these portals and we set intention and we feel, it's really quite frankly like a drug trip. It feels like you're on mushrooms. You're on a journey in there. Whether it's a 5-minute journey, call it a bufo journey, whether it's like a full, we just took 5 grams and we're down for 10 hours journey, or whether it's somewhere in between, it's an embodied experience of pleasure that then ruminates and emanates throughout the day. But when you are coming into your body, that is where I encourage you to start. Learning how to create so much safety around you that intimacy is a place for exploration of physical and then spiritual pleasure and prolonged enjoyment of being in a body. So, my loves, as we gently close up this portal, thank you for being with me in this space. It is such an honor to be able to connect. I would say 2 final things. 1, after listening to this, where are you on your embodiment journey? Reflect on it. Where are you disembodied? Where are you perhaps embodied? Where are you struggling? And the second thing is, if you feel stuck, if you're feeling stagnant, if you're feeling sticky, and you're wanting a level of support inside and to learn how to go through that process, because let me tell you, it is a process. There's a method to this. I really want to invite you to reach out to me. Please drop in. I am literally the person who will be there, who will message you back. A lot of people are so surprised when they come into my world and they actually meet and connect to me. Connect and tap in. The best way to get hold of me is my Instagram, nswain_coaching. Send me a DM. Come and play in this world. Come and start to deepen in, because it's so much more than just manifesting your king. And yet that is the inevitable outcome of the journey that I believe every single woman so deeply needs to go on for yourself first, and then for your life. So on that note, thank you for being in the space. I love you. And I pray your journey ahead is blessed and filled with pleasure and the most beautiful, radical awakening. All right.